The lavender was dying. Marin Coltrane pressed her fingertips against the brittle stems, feeling the life drain away beneath her touch. 8 months pregnant, balance precarious, she leaned over the work table in the back room of Bellamy's Books and Apothecary. The familiar scent of dried herbs wrapped around her like an old friend. Chamomile, rosemary, the sharp bite of peppermint. But the lavender. The lavender was wrong. She lifted the bundle closer, studying the gray-brown discoloration creeping up from the roots. Her back ached. Everything ached these days. The baby pressed against her ribs, a constant reminder of the life growing inside her, a life she would raise alone. The bell above the shop door chimed. "Stay put, child." Grandmother Iris Bellamy's voice carried from the front room, warm and commanding, in equal measure. "I'll handle the customers." Marin smiled despite herself. At 68, Iris moved with the certainty of someone who had earned every gray hair, every laugh line. The woman who had taken her in 8 months ago, when Marin had arrived with nothing but a backpack and a broken heart. The woman who had asked no questions, demanded no explanations, simply opened her door and said, "The spare room is yours for as long as you need it." Marin set down the lavender and reached for her journal instead. The leather-bound book was filled with careful illustrations, pressed flowers, notes on dosage and preparation, but also letters. Letters to the baby she would meet soon. Letters explaining why their father wasn't here, why he would never be here. "Dear little one, today I learned that lavender can sense fear. When stressed, it pulls its energy inward, protecting itself. I wonder if you can feel my fear too pressed so close to my heart. I wonder if you know that everything I do to keep you safe." The baby kicked. Hard. Marin laughed, pressing her palm to the spot. All right, I hear you." Marin, Iris appeared in the doorway, her silver braid draped over one shoulder. "Someone's asking about feverfew for migraines. The strong blend. Tell them to steep it for exactly 4 minutes. No longer." Marin pushed herself upright, one hand supporting her lower back. "And to add honey if the taste bothers them. The bitterness means it's working." Iris studied her for a long moment. Her dark eyes, still sharp despite her years, seemed to see everything Marin tried to hide. The exhaustion, the loneliness, the fear that caught in her throat every time she thought about labor, about raising a child, about the future stretching ahead like an unmarked trail. "You're allowed to rest, you know," Iris said gently. "I rest plenty. You work yourself to the bone and call it purpose." Marin met her gaze. "Purpose is all I have." Something shifted in Iris's expression. Understanding, perhaps, or recognition. She crossed the small space and cupped Marin's face in weathered hands. "You have more than you know," she said. "And when you're ready to see it, it'll still be here waiting." She left before Marin could respond. The afternoon stretched long and quiet. 3 customers came and went. An elderly man seeking salve for joint pain. A young mother desperate for something to help her colicky infant sleep. A teenage girl too embarrassed to name her ailment until Marin gently suggested chamomile tea for menstrual cramps and offered it free of charge. Each time Marin listened, observed, prescribed with the careful precision her father had taught her, even if she barely remembered his face anymore. Even if the memories of his lessons felt like dreams half forgotten upon waking. She was reorganizing the dried mint bundles when she saw it. A book, spine-cracked pages yellowed, the language of flowers and their medicinal properties. Someone had left it on the corner table, probably browsing and forgetting. Marin picked it up, intending to reshelve it. But the pages fell open to a marked passage. "Moonflower, blooms only at night, symbolizes dreaming of love. Also known as Devil's Trumpet for its dangerous beauty." She had worn moonflowers in her hair the night she met him. The memory hit like a physical blow. 8 months ago, the Harvest Moon Festival. Marin had almost stayed home. Her friend Jessamine had begged, pleaded, promised it would be the event of the season. "Every pack within 200 miles will be there," she'd insisted. "You can't hide in your herb garden forever." So Marin had gone. She'd woven moonflowers into her braid and worn the green dress that matched her eyes. She told herself it was just a festival, just one night of music and dancing and pretending she was someone who belonged in a crowd. The bonfire blazed at the center of the gathering grounds. Hundreds of people, maybe thousands, moved in the flickering light. Laughter rose and fell like waves. The air smelled of wood smoke and roasted meat and autumn's first bite. Marin had been standing near the edge, watching couples spin past when the world tilted. Not literally, but it felt that way. A presence behind her, close enough that she could feel the heat of another body, smell pine and rain, and something wild she couldn't name. She turned. He was tall, dark-haired, eyes the color of storm clouds, gray and shifting and impossibly intense. He wore simple clothes, nothing to mark him as different from anyone else. But the way people moved around him, unconsciously creating space, giving deference. He stared at her like she was the only person in the world. Dance with me. Not a question. A plea. Marin's heart hammered against her ribs. I don't even know your name. Cassian. His voice was rough, as if the word had been dragged from somewhere deep. Cassian Thornwell. She knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Alpha King of the Northern Territories. Ruler of 12 packs. A man who should have been surrounded by advisors and bodyguards and people far more important than a half-blood herbalist from nowhere. I'm nobody, she managed. You're my mate. The bond snapped into place. Marin felt it like a rope pulling taut between them. Invisible. Unbreakable. A certainty that sang in her blood and made her wolf dormant for so long raise its head and howl. He felt it too. She saw it in the way his pupils dilated, the way his breath caught. Dance with me, he said again. Please. So she did. They danced until the bonfire burned low, until the crowd thinned and the moon climbed high, until Marin forgot why she'd ever felt like she didn't belong. He told her about the weight of a crown he'd inherited too young. She told him about herbs that could heal almost anything except loneliness. He made her laugh. She made him forget to be a king. When he kissed her under the moonflowers, it felt like coming home. Stay with me, he whispered against her lips. Come to the capital. Let me show you what this could be. And foolishly wonderfully, Marin said yes. 3 months. That's how long it lasted. 3 months of waking in silk sheets and learning to navigate palace hallways. 3 months of Cassian bringing her rare plants from the royal gardens, watching with quiet joy as she explained their properties. 3 months of believing the mate bond was stronger than politics, stronger than tradition, stronger than the disapproving stares of nobles who whispered half-blood when they thought she couldn't hear. 3 months before the council summoned him. Marin wasn't invited to that meeting, but she heard the shouting through thick doors, heard Cassian's voice raised in anger, then desperation, then something that sounded like defeat. When he emerged, his face was stone. There's going to be a ceremony, he said. Tomorrow, you need to be there. What kind of ceremony? He wouldn't meet her eyes. Just trust me. But she'd seen the way his hands shook, the way his wolf pressed close to the surface, agitated and wrong. The ceremony was held in the Great Hall, 500 witnesses, maybe more. The council sat in judgment on a raised dais. Cassian stood in the center, regal in his formal attire. And Marin, dressed in a simple gown someone had left in her room, walked to his side because she trusted him. The head counselor spoke. Accusations poured forth like poison. Her father, David Coltrane, had been a traitor, had conspired against the old king, had used his position as master herbalist to poison rivals. The evidence was irrefutable. The bloodline was tainted. Marin tried to speak, to defend her father's memory, to demand proof, but Cassian raised his hand. The council has spoken, he said. His voice carried no warmth, no recognition. Marin Coltrane is unfit to stand as mate to the Alpha King. The world stopped. I reject this bond. Each word landed like a blade. I reject you as mate. I reject any claim you have to my pack, my throne, my future. Marin couldn't breathe. The bond between them screamed, tearing, shredding. Her wolf howled in agony. Do you accept? The counselor's voice was pitiless. She was supposed to say yes, supposed to accept the rejection and sever the bond completely. That's how it worked. But looking at Cassian, seeing the muscle jumping in his jaw, the way he still wouldn't meet her eyes, she realized something. He was lying, not about the rejection. That was real, she could feel it cutting into her soul. But the coldness, the indifference, that was a mask, and beneath it she saw terror. No, Marin whispered. Gasps rippled through the hall. No, she said louder. I don't accept. Before anyone could stop her, she ran. Through the halls, past shocked guards, out into the night. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs gave out. She ran until she was far enough away that the bond pulled taut but didn't break. 2 weeks later, hunched over a toilet in a dingy motel, she realized she was pregnant, and she ran again. The book slipped from Marin's hands, hitting the floor with a dull thud. She pressed both palms to her belly, feeling the baby shift and settle. 8 months. She'd been in this small border town for 8 months, working in Iris's shop, learning to live with the constant ache of a bond that never fully severed. Learning to be enough for both her and the child growing inside her. You're thinking about him again. Marin startled. Iris stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of tea. I don't think about him, Marin lied. Then why are you crying? Marin touched her cheek. Wet. She hadn't even realized. Iris set down the tea and pulled Marin into her arms. The older woman smelled like sage and cinnamon, like safety. It's all right to grieve, Iris murmured, even for something that hurt you. He rejected me. Marin's voice broke. In front of everyone. He called me unworthy. Did he? Marin pulled back. You weren't there. No, but I know terror when I hear it described. Iris's dark eyes held hers. A man who truly thought you unworthy wouldn't have needed an audience. He would have just walked away. What are you saying? I'm saying, Iris touched Marin's stomach gently, that sometimes people make terrible choices for what they think are noble reasons. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't erase the pain. But it might mean the story isn't finished. Before Marin could respond, the bell chimed again. Heavy footsteps. Purposeful. Iris tensed. Stay here. But Marin was already moving toward the front room, compelled by something she couldn't name. The bond in her chest pulled singing electric. No, it couldn't be. She rounded the corner and stopped dead. Cassian Thornwell stood in the doorway. Rain dripped from his dark hair, soaking his clothes. He looked older, exhausted, desperate. But when his gray eyes found hers when they dropped to her swollen belly, the expression that crossed his face nearly brought her to her knees. Wonder, grief, rage, joy, all at once. Marin! Her name sounded like prayer and curse in equal measure. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. 8 months of carefully constructed walls crumbled in an instant. Get out! Her voice shook. I can't. He took a step forward. Iris moved to intercept, but he raised his hands, placating. Please, I need your help. You need my help. The laugh that escaped was bitter, sharp. You rejected me. You called me unworthy. I know. Pain cracked through his composure. I know what I did. I know I don't deserve to stand in the same room as you, but it's not for me. Another figure appeared behind him. A man younger, struggling to stay upright. His skin was gray. Sweat poured down his face. His breathing came in ragged gasps. This is Tobias Merrick, Cassian said. My beta, my friend, he's been poisoned. Marin's herbalist training kicked in before her heart could protest. She moved closer, studying the man's symptoms. Dilated pupils, tremors, the faint purple tint to his lips. Wolfsbane, she said quietly. Yes. Cassian's voice was raw. Advanced. The pack healers tried everything. They said he couldn't finish. They said only a master could save him. Marin met his eyes. And there are no masters left. There's you. I'm not a master. I'm just, your father taught you. Not a question, a statement of absolute faith. I've seen your work, Marin. The medicines you created, the research. You have his gift. The baby kicked hard as if in agreement. Marin looked at Tobias, really looked. He was young, maybe 30. Eyes clouded with pain, but still holding on to consciousness through sheer will. She saw the way his hand trembled, reaching for something to steady himself. She saw the way Cassian gripped his shoulder, keeping him upright. The grief already forming in a king's eyes at the thought of losing someone he loved. Bring him to the back room, Marin said. Iris, I need the blue cabinet, all of it. She didn't look at Cassian as they passed, didn't acknowledge the way his presence made her skin hum, made the bond flare to life after months of dormancy. She focused on Tobias, on the task. The back room became a flurry of controlled urgency. Marin directed Cassian to lay Tobias on the examination table. She washed her hands, moving with the practiced efficiency her father had drilled into her years ago. Iris appeared with the supplies. Wolfsbane has 4 stages. Marin explained more to herself than anyone else. First the tremors, then respiratory distress, then organ failure, finally death. He's in stage 3, Cassian said hoarsely. I can see that. Marin's hands flew across the workspace. Milk thistle to protect the liver. Activated charcoal to absorb the toxin. But those were basics, what any competent healer would try. The real cure required something else. She pulled down a jar from the highest shelf. Inside, carefully preserved, were flowers most herbalists wouldn't recognize. Moonflower seeds processed in a specific way, combined with the root of a plant her father had called Wolf's Redemption. The antidote her father had created but never documented. The formula that lived only in Marin's memory. This is going to hurt, she told Tobias, but you have to stay conscious. Can you do that? He managed a weak nod. Marin mixed the compounds with precise measurements. Too little would be useless. Too much would kill him faster than the poison. Her hands, usually so steady, shook slightly. Cassian noticed. Maren, don't. She didn't look at him. Don't talk to me right now. I need to focus. The liquid turned pale green, almost luminescent. Maren added one final ingredient, a drop of her own blood. Old magic, her father had called it. The healer's bond to the medicine. She lifted the vial to Tobias's lips. Drink, all of it. He obeyed. The effect was immediate. His body convulsed back, arching. Cassian moved to hold him down, but Maren stopped him. Let the medicine work. For 30 seconds, that felt like hours, Tobias thrashed. Then slowly the color returned to his face. His breathing steadied. The tremors eased. He opened his eyes fully for the first time since arriving. That tasted like death. Maren laughed, surprised by the relief flooding through her. Death tastes worse, trust me. He'll need to rest, she told Cassian. The poison is neutralized, but his body needs time to heal. Iris, can we use the spare bedroom? Of course, child. Together they helped Tobias upstairs. Iris stayed with him, murmuring reassurances. Maren found herself alone with Cassian in the narrow hallway. The silence stretched. Thank you, he finally said. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but thank you. I didn't do it for you. I know. Maren started to walk away. His hand caught her wrist, gentle but insistent. Please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You made your choice. I made the only choice I could. His voice cracked. The council, they had evidence against your father. They said if I didn't reject you, they would have you tried for treason. Executed Maren. They were going to kill you. She pulled her hand free. So you killed me another way. I thought you'd be safer away from me, away from the politics and the poison and the people who would use you to control me. His eyes dropped to her stomach. I didn't know about the baby. I swear if I had known. You would have what? Maren's voice rose. Changed your mind? Stood up to them? Or would you have found another noble reason to break my heart? I don't know. The honesty in his admission was worse than any lie. I don't know what I would have done, but I know I've spent every day since that ceremony searching for you. Why? Because I never accepted it either. He stepped closer. You refused the rejection. The bond never broke. It's damaged, twisted, but it's still there. Can't you feel it? She could. God help her, she could feel it singing between them, that invisible thread pulling taut. The mate bond that should have died, but instead just waited. The baby kicked, hard enough that Maren gasped, one hand flying to her side. Cassian's eyes widened. Are you all right? Fine, the baby's just another kick. Active. Can I? He reached out, hesitated. Can I feel? Every instinct screamed at her to say no, to protect herself, protect her child from the man who had destroyed them both. But she saw the naked longing in his eyes, the desperate hope of a man who had lost everything and found a chance at something he didn't deserve. Slowly, she took his hand and placed it where the baby was moving. The kick came immediately, strong and insistent. Cassian's breath caught. A sound between a laugh and a sob escaped him. They're strong, he whispered. They have to be. Maren's voice was thick. I'm raising them alone. His hand tightened over hers. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She pulled away. You need to leave Cassian. Check on Tobias in the morning. I'll prepare more medicine for his recovery. But then you both need to go. Maren, go. She turned and walked down the stairs before he could see her crying. Night fell. Iris checked on Tobias, pronounced him stable, and retreated to her own room with a knowing look at Maren that said more than words. Maren sat in the back room journaling by candlelight. Her hand moved across the page, trying to make sense of the day. Dear little one, your father came today. He's not what I expected. I thought seeing him would feel like facing my executioner. Instead, it felt like seeing a ghost. Someone who used to be alive and vital and mine, but now exists in a space I can't reach. He touched you today, felt you kick. The look on his face, I don't know what to do with that. The smell hit her first. Smoke. Maren's head jerked up. Smoke was seeping under the door. Thick, acrid. Wrong. She shoved to her feet, pregnant belly, making her clumsy. Threw open the door. The front of the shop was burning. Flames licked up the curtains, consumed the bookshelves. The heat was already overwhelming. Maren could see the apothecary storage, all her carefully prepared medicines going up in smoke. Iris! She screamed up the stairs. Tobias, fire! Movement above. Cassian appeared on the landing, Tobias leaning heavily on him. Iris emerged from her room, face pale. The back exit, Iris commanded. Now. They stumbled through smoke and heat. Maren grabbed her journal, her father's grimoire, anything she could carry. The flames were spreading too fast, unnaturally fast. They burst out into the alley behind the shop. Fresh air hit like a blessing. Marin doubled over, coughing, eyes streaming. Cassian had his phone out, already calling for help. Tobias slid down the wall, still too weak to stand for long. Iris stared at her shop, her life's work burning. The herbs, Marin gasped. All the research. The pain lanced through her belly, sharp, sudden. She gasped, one hand flying to her stomach. Not a contraction. Different. Wrong. Another wave of pain. Marin's vision blurred, her legs buckled. Marin, Cassian caught her before she fell. Something's wrong, she managed. The baby. She looked down at her hand, where she'd grabbed the doorframe on their way out. A faint residue. Oily. Almost invisible in the dim light. She brought it to her nose and her blood turned to ice. Monk's hood oil. A contact poison. Slow-acting. Designed to be absorbed through skin. Someone had painted the doorframe. Knowing she'd touch it. Knowing it would trigger complications. Knowing it might kill both her and her baby. We need to get her to the clinic, Iris said, already moving toward her truck parked on the street. Cassian lifted Marin before she could protest. She was too shocked to fight. Too terrified. The poison. The fire. Too much, too fast. They were loading into the truck when Marin felt it. Another contraction. Stronger this time. The poison was already working and triggering her body's stress response. Cassian. Her voice was barely audible over the sirens approaching. This wasn't just arson. His eyes met hers in the rearview mirror as Iris drove. Someone's trying to kill me. The contraction ripped through her. Marin gripped the seat, fighting to breathe, fighting to stay conscious, fighting to protect the life inside her from poison and fire, and whoever had decided that a half-blood herbalist and her unborn child were threats that needed to be eliminated. The bond between her and Cassian flared hot and desperate. For the first time in 8 months, she didn't fight it. She held onto it like a lifeline as the world tilted and blurred. The last thing she saw was Cassian's face transformed by absolute fury and terror as he promised something she couldn't quite hear over the roaring in her ears. And then there was only the pain and the fear and the tiny heartbeat fighting to survive inside her. Dr. Halcyon Frost had hands like winter branches, thin, strong, steady as they pressed the stethoscope to Marin's swollen belly. The clinic room was too white, too sterile. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, making everything feel unreal. Marin lay on the examination table, Cassian standing rigid beside her, his hand crushing hers. The contractions had slowed. For now. The poison is the problem, Dr. Frost said, her voice carrying the calm of someone who had delivered bad news too many times to sugarcoat it. Monk's hood oil absorbed through skin contact. It's designed to trigger stress responses in pregnancy. Your body is reacting to perceived threat. The baby, Marin whispered, is the baby strong? Strong, surprisingly strong. Dr. Frost's gray eyes softened. But you're only 36 weeks. We need to buy time. Every day matters. What do you need? Cassian's voice was raw. Rest. Absolute rest. No stress, no exertion. Dr. Frost looked at Marin directly. And I need you to neutralize the poison before it does more damage. Can you do that? Marin's mind was already working. Monk's hood oil, contact poison. She'd absorbed it hours ago, but the toxin would still be in her system, still working its way through her bloodstream. Milk thistle, she said, high dose, and burdock root to help my liver process it faster. I'll need access to my supplies. Your supplies burned. Iris spoke from the corner of the room, her face drawn. The older woman's shop, her life's work, was ash now. Then we go somewhere else. Cassian's tone left no room for argument. My estate, it's secure, warded, and the gardens have everything you need. Marin started to protest, to say she couldn't possibly go with him, couldn't trust him, couldn't. Another contraction cut through her thoughts, weaker than the fire-induced ones, but still there, still threatening. Dr. Frost's expression hardened. You need to decide. Now, that baby is stressed and your body is compromised. You need treatment immediately. Marin looked at Iris, the woman who had become her family, who had lost everything tonight because of her. Go, Iris said firmly. I'll be fine, but that grandbaby of mine needs you alive. Grandbaby. The word made Marin's throat tight. She managed it all right, and Cassian's estate sat at the edge of the forest, a sprawling stone manor that looked like it had grown from the earth itself. Ivy climbed the walls. Ancient oaks formed a protective canopy. The gardens spread out in careful chaos, wild herbs mixing with cultivated beds. Marin stood at the window of the guest room watching dawn break over the trees. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flames, smelled smoke, felt the poison working its way through her veins. A knock at the door. "Come in." Cassian entered carrying a tray. Tea, toast, a small vial of something pale green that made Marin's heart clench. "Milk thistle tincture," he said quietly. "I had it prepared from the garden. Magistra Wren said the dosage should be—" "Magistra Wren is here. She arrived an hour ago." Cassian set down the tray. "She's been investigating. The fire, the poison, the timing of it all." Marin took the vial, examining it. The color was right, the consistency. She unstoppered it, smelled it. "Perfect. You made this? I watched you work for 3 months. I learned." She drank it. The bitterness coated her tongue, but beneath it was something else. Care. Precision. Love, maybe, in the only way he knew how to show it. "There's someone who wants to meet you," Cassian said, "if you're feeling up to it." "I'm not receiving visitors." "She's not a visitor. She's family." Before Marin could ask what that meant, the door opened wider. An elderly woman entered, tall and straight-backed, despite her years. Her silver hair was woven with tiny braids, and her eyes sharp and dark assessed Marin with the intensity of a raptor. "Magistra Wren Ashcroft," the woman introduced herself. "I knew your father." The world tilted. Marin sat down heavily on the bed. "My father, David Coltrane, master herbalist to King Edmund." Wren moved closer, her gaze never leaving Marin's face. "You have his eyes, and his gift, from what I hear." "He was a traitor." The words tasted like ash. "The council said—" "The county lied." Wren's voice cut like a blade. "Your father was the most brilliant herbalist I ever knew. He could cure diseases others couldn't even diagnose. He could create medicines that bordered on magic, and that terrified them. Why, Tom? Because he couldn't be controlled." Wren settled into a chair. "The council operates on poison and fear, political assassinations disguised as natural deaths, illnesses that strike rivals at convenient times. Your father refused to participate, so they killed him and blamed rebels." Marin pressed a hand to her belly, feeling the baby shift. "How do you know this?" "Because I helped them do it." Silence crashed down. Wren's face remained impassive, but something flickered in her eyes. Shame, perhaps, or ancient grief. "I was young, ambitious. They promised me his position if I helped discredit him. So I planted false evidence, testified against him, watched them execute a good man for crimes he never committed." She leaned forward. "I have spent 30 years atoning, and I will spend 30 more if that's what it takes." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because they're doing it again." Wren pulled a folder from her bag. Inside were documents. Photos. "The fire wasn't random. The poison wasn't an accident. Someone on the council knows you have your father's knowledge, and they want it destroyed before you can use it." Marin took the folder with shaking hands. The first photo showed the apothecary burning. The second showed chemical analysis. Accelerant, deliberately placed. The third showed a woman. Regal, beautiful, cold-eyed, standing in what looked like a council chamber. "Who is this?" "We don't know yet," Wren admitted. "But she was seen near the apothecary the day before the fire, and she matches the description of someone who's been asking questions about you in several border towns." Marin studied the photo. Something about the woman's face nagged at her. The shape of the eyes, the set of the jaw. Familiar, but she couldn't place it. "There's something else," Wren said carefully. "Something your father left behind." She pulled out a book. Leather-bound, fire-damaged, but intact. Marin recognized it immediately. Iris's grimoire. Salvaged from the fire, barely. Wren opened it to a marked page. "This is why they burned the shop. This is what they're afraid of." The page showed a formula. Complex, detailed. Written in her father's precise hand. Sovereign's antidote. Universal neutralizer for all known poisons. Marin's breath caught. This could save lives. It could also end the council's power. Wren's voice was grim. If people had access to this, political assassinations would become impossible. The council's primary weapon would be useless. "Can you recreate it?" Cassian had been silent until now, but his question was urgent. Marin studied the formula. Some ingredients she recognized. Others were obscure, dangerous to work with. The proportions had to be exact, or the antidote itself would be lethal. "I can try," she said slowly, "but I'd need time, resources, and a mild contraction rippled through her, not strong but enough to make her tense. Cassian was beside her instantly. You should rest. I should work. Marin breathed through the discomfort. If the council wants this formula destroyed, that means it's important. That means my father died protecting something that could actually change things. Your father also died, Ren said quietly. Don't make his mistake. Don't sacrifice yourself before you're ready. But Marin was already thinking, planning. If she could recreate the Sovereign's antidote, she could do more than protect herself. She could protect everyone targeted by the Council's poison politics. She could finish what her father started. I'll need a proper workspace, she said, and I'll need to start gathering ingredients immediately. No exertion, Dr. Frost's voice came from the doorway. The doctor must have arrived while they were talking. You're on modified bed rest, young lady. Then I'll work sitting down. Stubborn, but Dr. Frost smiled slightly. Fine, but I'm monitoring you constantly. Any sign the poison is progressing or labor is starting, we stop everything. Over the next 3 days, Marin's world became the guest room and the small laboratory Cassian had hastily assembled next door. Tobias recovered, now brought her plants from the garden. Iris arrived with what supplies she'd salvaged. Ren provided rare ingredients from her own stores. And slowly, carefully, Marin began to recreate her father's masterwork. The formula required 13 base ingredients, some common, some deadly. Foxglove for the heart, belladonna for the nerves, hemlock for the blood. Individually, each would kill. Combined in precise ratios, they neutralized each other's toxicity while amplifying their healing properties. It was brilliant, dangerous, exactly the kind of work her father had been famous for. Marin worked with steady hands, measuring and mixing. Between batches, she wrote in her journal, letters to her unborn child, observations about each plant, memories of her father that surfaced like bubbles in still water. Dear little one, I'm learning who my father was, not through stories, but through his work. Every formula he created was an act of love, a refusal to let poison win. I understand now why they killed him, not because he was dangerous, but because he proved there was another way. I hope I can be half as brave. On the 4th day, Alpha Brennan Locke arrived. He was an older man, 60, with the weathered face of someone who'd lived hard and survived. He walked with a cane, but his eyes were sharp. Magistra Wren says you need political support, he said without preamble. She also says you're David Coltrane's daughter. I am. Your father saved my mate. Brennan's voice roughened. 20 years ago, she contracted wolfsbane poisoning. Every healer said she'd die within a week. Your father created a cure in 3 days, refused payment, said saving lives was payment enough. Marin felt something warm unfurl in her chest. I didn't know. There's a lot you don't know. David helped dozens of packs, cured diseases, trained healers. He was supposed to be rewarded, elevated. Instead, the council killed him. Brennan met her eyes. I owe him a debt, and I pay my debts. You have my support, whatever you need. I need the truth acknowledged, Marin said. My father wasn't a traitor. Then we'll make them acknowledge it. Brennan glanced at her belly. After you've had that baby, no sense fighting wars when you're carrying the future. He left with a promise to reach out to other alphas, to build a coalition. Alpha Cade Silverton arrived 2 days later. Unlike Brennan, Cade was hostile from the start. Younger, more aggressive, he paced Marin's workspace like a caged predator. I don't care who your father was, he said bluntly. Half-bloods don't belong in royal politics. Marin set down the pestle she'd been using. Then why are you here? Because my daughter is dying. The words came out strangled, and Magistra Wren says you might be able to help. What are her symptoms? Chronic pain, fatigue. She can barely get out of bed. We've seen 15 healers. None of them can figure it out. Marin considered. Bring her here. Excuse me. If you want my help, bring her here. I need to examine her myself. Cade's jaw worked. Pride warred with desperation. Desperation won. Tomorrow. The girl who arrived the next day was 17, pale, thin. She moved like every step hurt, but her eyes were fierce. I'm Neve, she said, extending a trembling hand. You're the herbalist everyone's talking about. I'm trying to be. Marin guided her to a chair. Tell me about the pain. Where does it start? My joints, especially in the morning, and I'm always tired no matter how much I sleep. Marin asked questions, gentle, probing. She examined Neve's hands, noting the slight swelling in the knuckles, checked her eyes, her skin, her pulse. It's autoimmune, she said finally. Cade frowned. What? Her body is attacking itself, treating her own tissues as threats. Marin was already reaching for ingredients. It's rare in wolves, but not impossible. The treatment is anti-inflammatory herbs combined with immune modulators. She worked quickly, mixing turmeric and ginger with devil's claw and ashwagandha. Added a drop of willow bark extract. Drink this. She handed the cup to Neve. All of it. The girl obeyed. The effect wasn't immediate, but within 20 minutes her color improved. The tension in her shoulders eased. The pain, Neve whispered. It's less. It'll take time to fully heal, Marin cautioned. You'll need this tea twice daily for at least 3 months, and you'll need to avoid certain foods that trigger inflammation. She wrote out detailed instructions, diet changes, exercise recommendations, warning signs to watch for. When she looked up, Cade was staring at her. You just did in 20 minutes what 15 healers couldn't do in 6 months. I listened to her, Marin said simply. Sometimes that's the hardest part. Cade was silent for a long moment. Then he actually knelt before her chair. I was wrong about you, about half-bloods, about everything. His voice was thick. You have my support and my protection. Anyone who threatens you threatens my family. After they left, Cassian found Marin in the laboratory staring at her hands. You're building something, he said quietly. Not just medicines, something bigger. I'm just helping people. You're doing both. He sat beside her. Every person you heal becomes an ally. Every life you save proves the council wrong about you. Is that what you think I'm doing? Proving them wrong? No. His hand covered hers. I think you're being exactly who you've always been, someone who sees suffering and refuses to look away. The bond between them pulsed, warm, steady. Marin didn't pull away this time. I haven't forgiven you, she said. I know. And I'm still hurt. I know. But I'm grateful you're here now. His hand tightened on hers. I'm not going anywhere. Not again. That night, Marin woke to voices downstairs, angry, urgent. She struggled out of bed, one hand on her belly. Moving was harder now, her body preparing for labor, even as she tried to hold it off. But something in those voices made her heart race. She found them in the study. Cassian Tobias Wren, and a new woman. Elegant, regal, cold-eyed, the woman from the photograph. Who are you? Marin demanded. The woman turned. Up close, the resemblance was unmistakable. The same eyes, the same bone structure. Delphine Thornrose, she said smoothly. Royal herbalist. I've been hired to oversee all medicinal practices in the territory. I didn't hire anyone, Cassian said icily. The council did. They're concerned about unlicensed practitioners. Delphine's gaze slid to Marin, especially those making dangerous claims about royal conspiracies. Wren stepped forward, her face like stone. I know you. I don't believe we've met. Yes, we have. 30 years ago. You were Delphine Coltrane then. The room went silent. Marin felt the blood drain from her face. Coltrane. My father's name, she whispered. Delphine's mask cracked. Just for a moment. Something like panic flashed through her eyes. I don't know what you're talking about. You're her mother, Vifi. Wren's voice was merciless. You married David Coltrane, had a child, then abandoned both of them when the council offered you a position. That's ridiculous. But Marin was already seeing it. The shape of her own hands in Delphine's. The way they both tilted their heads when concentrating. Small details that suddenly made terrible sense. You left me. The words came out broken. You left me with strangers and never looked back. I did what I had to do to survive. Delphine's composure shattered. You think I wanted to be tied to a man the council marked for death? To a half-blood child who would only drag me down? So you became exactly what he fought against. Marin's voice shook. A poisoner, a tool of the council. I became powerful. I became necessary. Delphine's eyes hardened. And I won't let you destroy what I've built with your naive crusade. You ordered the fire, Cassian said. You poisoned her. I did what was necessary to protect the council's interest. You tried to kill your own daughter. Wren sounded disgusted. I tried to eliminate a threat. Delphine pulled herself straight. And I'll do it again if I have to. The council wants that formula destroyed. They want her silenced. And I will not risk my position for sentiment. She turned to leave, but Marin's voice stopped her. I pity you. Delphine froze. You gave up everything that mattered for power, Marin continued. Family, love, honor. You became exactly the kind of monster my father died fighting. And for what? So you could be the council's pet poisoner. I am the royal herbalist. You're a coward. Marin's hand rested on her belly. My baby will never know your name. They'll grow up knowing their grandfather was a hero, and their mother finished his work. But you're nothing. Just another poisoner who chose fear over love. For a moment, something human flickered in Delphine's eyes. Regret maybe, or the ghost of the woman she used to belong to. Then it was gone. The Grand Assembly is in 4 weeks, she said coldly. The council will demand you surrender the formula and face trial for unauthorized practice of herbal magic. If you refuse, they'll execute you for treason, just like they did your father. She left. The silence she left behind was suffocating. Marin sank into a chair, shaking. Not from fear, from rage, from grief, from the absolute devastation of learning your mother tried to kill you. We can fight this, Cassian said. We have allies now, Bren and Cade. It won't be enough, Ren's voice was grim. The council has the law on their side. Only a master herbalist can practice freely. Everyone else needs council approval. Then I'll get approval. They'll never grant it. Not to you. Marin's mind raced. There had to be a way. Some loophole, some ancient law. Wait. Iris appeared in the doorway. She must have arrived during the confrontation. There is one way. Everyone turned. The old laws, Iris said. Before the council existed, disputes between herbalists were settled through remedy trials. Public demonstrations of skill. If Marin could challenge Delphine in 4 weeks, Cassian protested, when she might go into labor any day. The baby will be born by then, Marin said quietly, one way or another. You can't possibly. I can. She met his eyes. I won't run. I won't hide. And I won't let them win again. That night, alone in her room, Marin felt her body changing. Not contractions, not yet, but the subtle shifts that meant labor was approaching. She breathed through the serrations, one hand on her belly. Not yet, she whispered to the baby. I need a few more weeks. Can you give me that? The baby shifted, settled, as if agreeing to wait. 3 days later, under a full moon, Marin's water broke. Real labor this time. No stopping it. Dr. Frost arrived within minutes. Cassian hovered useless and terrified. Iris held Marin's hand and murmured encouragement. But between contractions, Marin realized something. The poison. Delphine's poison from the fire. It was still in her system, still working. She could feel it now, making her heart race, making her vision blur. Something's wrong, she gasped. Dr. Frost checked her pulse, her pupils. The poison. It's complicating labor. Can you stop it? Not without the Sovereign's antidote. And you haven't finished. I have. Marin struggled to sit up. In the laboratory, the vial marked with a sun symbol. Bring it. Tobias ran, returned within minutes. Marin took the vial with shaking hands. This was it. Her father's formula recreated, untested. If it worked, it would save her life and her babies. If it failed, they'd both die. Marin, Cassian's voice was raw. Please. She drank. The effect was immediate. The racing heartbeat slowed. The blurred vision cleared. The poison burning through her veins neutralized. It worked, Dr. Frost breathed. My God, it actually worked. Another contraction hit. Natural this time. No poison driving it, just the baby deciding it was time. All right, Marin gritted out. Let's have a baby. Labor was pain, pure, consuming, impossible pain. But Marin had been raised on pain. She knew how to breathe through it, how to find the rhythm. Between contractions, she gave instructions. Dr. Frost, when the baby crowns be ready with the heated blanket, newborns lose heat fast. Marin, focus on yourself. I am a healer. I'm always focused. Hours passed. The moon climbed high. Somewhere, Marin lost track of time. There was only the pain and the pushing and Cassian's hand crushing hers. One more, Dr. Frost urged. One more push. Marin gathered everything she had left. Every ounce of strength, every bit of will. She pushed. And suddenly, impossibly, there was a new sound in the room. Crying, high and indignant, and absolutely perfect. It's a girl, Dr. Frost announced. Marin, you have a daughter. They placed the baby on Marin's chest. Tiny. Perfect. Eyes that opened and fixed on her mother's face with impossible awareness. Gold eyes. Not silver like Cassian's wolf. Not green like Marin's. Gold. The mark of the herbalist's gift. Soleil, Marin whispered. Her name is Soleil. The baby's tiny hand wrapped around Marin's finger. The grip was strong, determined, survivor. Cassian was crying, actually crying, tears streaming down his face as he looked at his daughter. He asked hoarsely. Marin nodded. He took Soleil with trembling hands. The baby looked at him, and something passed between them. The beginning of a bond. Not mate bond, but something deeper. Father and daughter. She's perfect, he whispered. You're both perfect. Tobias appeared in the doorway. Congratulations, Your Majesty. And Marin. He paused. There's news. The council has made their demand official. The Grand Assembly will convene in 4 weeks. They're calling for your trial. Marin looked at her daughter, at this tiny life she'd brought into a world full of poison and politics. Then I'll be ready, she said. You just gave birth, Iris protested, and I just created a formula that neutralizes all poisons while in labor. Marin's voice was steel. I think I can handle a trial. Soleil made a small sound, not quite a cry, more like agreement. Everyone laughed, tension breaking. But later, when the room had emptied, and it was just Marin and Soleil in the darkness, the fear crept back in. 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, she would stand before the council and defend her right to exist, her right to practice her father's art, her right to be a mother to this perfect, impossible child. In 4 weeks, she would face Delphine, her mother, her enemy. In 4 weeks, everything would change. Marin looked down at Soleil sleeping peacefully in her arms. I'm going to build you a different world, she whispered. One where herbalists are honored, not murdered, where half-bloods aren't treated as lesser, where mothers don't abandon their daughters for power. Soleil's hand tightened on her finger. Through the window, the moon was setting, and somewhere in the capital, the council was preparing their case. But Marin Coltrane had something they didn't. She had her father's knowledge, her own unbreakable will, and a daughter worth fighting for. The trial was coming. Let it come. Soleil was 3 weeks old when the summons arrived. Formal, sealed with the council's mark. Black wax pressed with the image of a serpent coiled around a sword. Marin broke the seal with one hand, Soleil sleeping against her shoulder. The parchment was heavy, expensive. The kind of paper that demanded respect. By order of the High Council of the Northern Territories, Marin Coltrane is hereby summoned to the Grand Assembly to answer charges of unauthorized practice of herbal magic, possession of forbidden knowledge, and conspiracy against lawful authority. Failure to appear will result in immediate conviction and sentence of death. The date was set for 1 week away. They're rushing it, Ren said, reading over Marin's shoulder. They don't want to give you time to prepare. Then we work faster. Marin shifted Soleil to her other shoulder. The baby stirred but didn't wake. What are our options? They were gathered in Cassian's study. The Alpha King, his Beta, the Magistra, and Iris. A war council assembled around a sleeping infant. The formal charge is unauthorized practice, Ren explained. Only licensed herbalists can create and distribute medicines. The council controls all licenses. So they control who has the right to heal. Tobias shook his head. Convenient. There's a loophole, Iris said. The old laws. Before the council existed, herbalists proved their skill through public demonstration. Remedy trials. Combat by healing, Cassian said quietly. I've read about them. 2 herbalists, 3 impossible cases. Whoever heals more wins recognition as master. Delphine would never agree to them, Marin said. She won't have a choice. Ren's smile was sharp. If you invoke the old laws in front of the assembly, she has to accept or forfeit her own title. Pride won't let her refuse. Marin looked down at Soleil, the baby's tiny face peaceful in sleep, gold eyes hidden behind delicate lids. 1 week, 7 days to prepare for a trial that would determine not just her fate, but her daughter's future. Tell me everything, she said. I want to know every detail of how these trials work. They talked through the night. Iris made tea. Ren produced ancient texts describing past remedy trials. Tobias took notes. Cassian paced, restless energy radiating from him. By dawn, Marin understood what she was walking into. 3 rounds. 3 patients with conditions deemed incurable. The herbalists would work simultaneously, their methods on full display. The assembly would judge not just the outcome, but the approach. Speed versus thoroughness. Aggression versus gentleness. Power versus wisdom. Your father competed in one, Ren said quietly, against the royal herbalist at the time. He won by refusing to use poison-based treatments. Every remedy he created was pure, natural, safe. What happened to the other herbalist? He died 2 years later, poisoned by his own creations. Ren met Marin's eyes. Your father's way takes longer, requires more patience, but it doesn't destroy the healer in the process. Marin spent the next 6 days in focused preparation. Between feeding Soleil, between stolen hours of sleep, she worked. She studied her father's formulas. practiced creating remedies under pressure, drilled herself on plant identification, dosage calculations, symptom analysis. Cassian brought her rare specimens from the royal gardens. Tobias organized her supplies with military precision. Iris shared folk remedies passed down through generations. And at night alone with Soleil, Marin wrote, "Dear Soleil, in 2 days I will stand before the assembly. I will face my mother who chose power over love. I will defend your grandfather's legacy and fight for your future. I am terrified, but I am also ready. You have taught me something in these 3 weeks, little one. You have taught me that love is not a weakness. It is the strongest medicine I possess." The night before the assembly, Marin couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, Soleil in her arms, watching the moon climb. The baby was awake too, gold eyes tracking the shadows. "Can't sleep either," Cassian's voice came from the doorway. "Too much to think about." He joined her at the window. They stood in silence, 3 people bound by blood and choice, and the fragile hope that tomorrow wouldn't destroy everything. "I have something for you," Cassian said finally. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a pendant, silver shaped like a leaf with veins picked out in gold. "It was my mother's," he said. "She was a healer too. Not formally trained, but she knew plants, knew how to help people." He fastened it around Marin's neck. "She would have loved you." "Would she have loved that you rejected me?" The words came out before Marin could stop them. Cassian flinched. "No, she would have been ashamed." "Good. I don't expect forgiveness." His voice was low. "I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that I will spend every day proving I've changed, that I won't make that mistake again." Marin looked at him, really looked. She saw the exhaustion, the guilt, the desperate love for a daughter he'd almost never known. "Ask me again," she said. "After the trial, after all this is over, ask me if I can forgive you. And if you can't, then we figure out how to raise Soleil together anyway, because that's what parents do." He nodded, started to leave, stopped. "You're going to win tomorrow." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." He met her eyes. "Because you're fighting for something bigger than yourself. And that kind of purpose, it's unstoppable." The Grand Assembly Hall was designed to overwhelm. Marble columns rose 3 stories. Stained glass windows filtered light into fractured rainbows. Tiered seating surrounded a central arena, every seat occupied by pack leaders, nobles, elders. 800 witnesses to judgment. Marin walked through the main doors, Soleil in a sling against her chest. She wore simple clothes. No finery, no attempt to impress. Just the pendant at her throat and her father's journal tucked under one arm. The crowd's reaction was immediate. Whispers, stares, pointing. "That's her. The half-blood. She brought the baby." Audacious. Cassian walked beside her, Iris on her other side. Tobias and Ren followed. A small group against a sea of judgment. The council sat on a raised platform. 7 members, all elderly, all watching with expressions ranging from disdain to open hostility. And in the center, Delphine Thorn rose. She wore crimson robes, the official garb of the royal herbalist. Her hair was swept up, revealing a face that could have been carved from ice. When her eyes met Marin's, something flickered. Too quick to identify. The head counselor, a man named Silas Mordain, stood. "Marin Coltrane, you stand accused of practicing herbal magic without council authorization." "How do you plead?" Marin stepped forward. Soleil stirred at the movement, but didn't wake. "I invoke the right of trial." Her voice carried across the hall. "By the old laws, I challenge the royal herbalist to remedy trial. The winner earns the title of master and all rights therein." Gasps rippled through the assembly. Silas's face darkened. "The old laws are still valid," Ren called out, standing. "Never repealed, never overturned. The right of trial supersedes council authority." "This is absurd. She's a qualified challenger." Alpha Brennan rose from his seat. "I witnessed her heal my mate 20 years ago, indirectly through her father's teaching, and I witnessed her cure my ally's daughter weeks ago. She has standing." "I second the challenge," Alpha Cade added, standing. "She healed my daughter when 15 others failed. Let her prove her skill publicly." More Alphas stood, one by one, supporting Marin's right to trial. Silas looked to Delphine. "What say you?" Delphine's mask was perfect, not a crack showed. "I accept." Her voice was silk over steel. "Let us settle this matter decisively." The arena was transformed. 2 workstations appeared set up on opposite sides. Each held a basic array of tools. Mortar and pestle, measuring instruments, a brazier for heating. Raw ingredients lined shelves behind each station. The trial will consist of 3 rounds, Silas announced, 3 patients each with a condition deemed incurable by conventional methods. The herbalist will work simultaneously. The assembly will judge both outcome and method. Iris took Soleil. I'll keep her safe. Marin pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead, whispered, "Watch Mama work." The first patient was brought forward, a young man maybe 25. His hands shook uncontrollably, his speech slurred. Mercury poisoning, the healer presenting him explained. Chronic exposure, nervous system damage. Irreversible. 15 minutes, Silas said. Begin. Delphine moved with practiced efficiency. She reached for foxglove first. Quick acting, powerful, dangerous. Marin took a different approach. She knelt before the patient. "What's your name?" Thomas. "Thomas, I'm going to help you. This might take a bit longer, but it will be gentler. Is that all right?" He nodded, tears in his eyes. Marin worked methodically. Cilantro to bind the heavy metals. Chlorella to help elimination. Milk thistle to protect the liver as the body purged toxins. She mixed them into a tea, explaining each ingredient as she worked. "Drink this slowly," she told Thomas. "It won't fix everything immediately, but in a few days you'll notice improvement." Across the arena, Delphine had already finished. Her remedy was a single vial, dark liquid that looked medicinal and menacing. "Drink," she commanded. Her patient obeyed. Within seconds, the tremors stopped. His speech cleared. The assembly murmured, impressed. But Marin noticed something. The patient's pupils were dilated. His heartbeat, visible in his neck, was racing. "Side effects?" she called out. "Temporary," Delphine said coldly. "Or permanent?" Marin turned to the assembly. "Foxglove-based remedies are fast but toxic. They mask symptoms while poisoning the patient. My remedy takes longer but heals without damage." "We judge results, not philosophy," Silas said. "Then judge this." Marin gestured to Thomas. His hands had stopped shaking too, though more gradually. No toxins in his system, no price paid for healing. "Round 1 goes to Delphine Thornrose," Silas declared. "Speed and immediate efficacy." Marin had expected that. The assembly valued dramatics. The second patient was a middle-aged woman. "Autoimmune disorder," the healer explained. "Body attacking its own tissue. Progressive, fatal." Marin recognized it immediately. The same condition Neve had suffered. 20 minutes. Begin. Delphine reached for belladonna, aggressive immunosuppression. It would stop the attack on the body's tissues but leave the patient vulnerable to every infection. Marin chose turmeric, devil's claw, ashwagandha. Gentle anti-inflammatories that would calm the immune response without destroying it. She worked slowly, precisely, talking to the patient the entire time. "So, this will help your body remember what it's supposed to protect instead of attack. It's not a quick fix, it's a partnership. You and the medicine working together." The woman watched with desperate hope. "Will it work?" "It worked for someone I love very much," Marin said softly. When time was called, both remedies were complete. Delphine's patient showed immediate improvement, swelling reduced, pain visibly lessening. Marin's patient showed more subtle changes, color returning to her face, breathing easier. "Round 2 goes to Delphine Thornrose," Silas announced. "Consistent excellence." Marin was down 2 rounds, 1 left. The third patient made her heart stop. Tobias. He was carried in on a stretcher, unconscious. His breathing labored, skin gray. "Wolfsbane poisoning," the healer said. "Specially formulated. The previous cure has failed. The poison adapted." Marin's blood turned to ice. She looked at Delphine and saw the truth. This wasn't a test case. This was an execution. Delphine had poisoned Tobias again, created a version of her toxin specifically designed to resist the antidote Marin had used before. "This is murder," Cassian's voice rang out. "You poisoned my beta to rig the trial." "Prove it," Delphine said coolly. 30 minutes, Silas said. "Final round. Begin." Marin's hands shook as she approached Tobias. His pulse was thready. His wolf was shutting down, unable to fight the poison. If she failed, he died. She had no antidote for this specific formulation. No time to analyze it properly. No, wait, her father's formula. The sovereign's antidote. Universal neutralizer. She had used it on herself during labor, but she'd only created a small batch. Most of it was untested, and if she was wrong about the proportions, if the formula didn't work on this variant, Tobias would die. Across the arena, Delphine was working, but Marin noticed something strange. The other woman's hands were shaking, just slightly, and she kept glancing at Tobias, at the man dying because of her poison. Something was breaking behind that perfect mask. Marin made her choice. She pulled out the vial of Sovereign's antidote. Her father's masterwork recreated. She'd been saving it, protecting it. But what good was knowledge if she wouldn't use it? She uncorked the vial. This is the formula the council fears, she called out to the assembly. The Sovereign's antidote, created by my father, recreated by me. It neutralizes all known poisons. Impossible, someone shouted. Watch. She tilted the vial to Tobias's lips. Let 3 drops fall. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Tobias gasped. His eyes flew open. Color flooded back into his face. The gray pallor lifted like fog burning off in sunlight. He sat up, breathing hard but alive. Healed. The assembly erupted, but Marin wasn't done. She held up the vial. I could keep this secret, hoard it, use it for power like the council uses poison. But that's not what my father would have wanted. She walked to the center of the arena. This formula belongs to everyone. Any healer who wants it can have it. I'll teach it freely, share it openly, because healing shouldn't be a weapon. It should be a gift. She set the vial on the ground, stepped back. That's my answer to the council's charges. I practice herbal magic without authorization because healing is a right, not a privilege. And I will continue to practice, continue to teach, continue to share my father's knowledge with anyone who needs it. Silence. Then slowly Alpha Brennan began to clap. Others joined, pack leaders, nobles, even some elders. The applause built rolling through the hall like thunder. Silas looked furious. This trial is about whether she's worthy of the title Master Herbalist, Wren interrupted. I believe we have our answer. She must win the rounds, Delphine said, but her voice lacked conviction. Then let's judge. Alpha Cade stood. Round 3. She healed a patient you poisoned. She did it with a formula she gave away freely. That's not just skill, that's mastery. I agree, another Alpha called, as do I. One by one the Alphas voted. The count was overwhelming. Marin had won round 3, which meant the trial was tied. We need a tiebreaker, Silas said desperately. Then I offer one. Everyone turned. Delphine had stepped away from her workstation. She moved to the center of the arena facing Marin. I challenge you to create one more cure. Her voice carried across the hall. A cure for the worst poison in this room. What poison? Delphine pulled a vial from her robes. The liquid inside was black. Viscous. This is my masterwork, she said. A poison I've spent 20 years perfecting. It has no antidote. I created it specifically to be incurable. If you can neutralize this, I will concede. The title of master is yours. Marin studied the vial. Black liquid. That meant heavy metals, probably arsenic base. The viscosity suggested organic compounds, plant toxins mixed with minerals. It would be nearly impossible to neutralize without knowing the exact formula. I accept, she said. Delphine uncorked the vial. For a moment, Marin thought she would demand a test subject, but instead Delphine lifted the vial to her own lips. Mother, no. The word escaped before Marin could stop it. Too late. Delphine drank. The effect was immediate. She convulsed, falling to her. Blood trickled from her nose. Her breathing turned ragged. Why? Marin was already moving, grabbing supplies. Why would you do this? Because, Delphine's voice was fading. Because I'm tired. Tired of being the monster. Tired of poisoning. Tired of being afraid. Her eyes, the same color as Marin's, met her daughter's. I saw you give away that formula. Saw you choose healing over power. And I realized, you're what I should have been. What I could have been if I'd been brave. She coughed. More blood. I don't deserve to live. But maybe you can prove I was wrong. Maybe there is a cure for monsters. Marin's hands flew across her supplies. The Sovereign's antidote wouldn't work on this. Too specific, too tailored. She needed something else. Think. Black poison. Heavy metals and plant toxins. She needed a chelator for the metals. Chlorella, maybe. And for the plant toxins. Activated charcoal. No, too slow. Wait, her father's journal. She'd been reading it every night. There was a passage about complex poisons, about how sometimes the cure wasn't a single antidote but a sequence. Neutralize one component to weaken the whole. She mixed frantically. Clay to bind the metals, dandelion to support the liver, and then inspired she added a drop of her own blood again. The healer's bond. Drink this. She supported Delphine's head. Please, let me help you. Delphine's hand covered hers. I don't care what you deserve. You're my mother, and I'm choosing to save you. The words hung in the air. Mother, she'd said it, acknowledged it. Delphine drank. Seconds passed like hours. The blood flow slowed, the convulsions eased. Color returned painfully slowly. Delphine opened her eyes, focused on Marin's face. You did it, she whispered. You cured the incurable. I cured you, Marin corrected, and now you're going to live with that. You're going to wake up every day and choose to be better, to use your knowledge to heal instead of harm. I don't know how. Then I'll teach you. Marin's voice broke. The way you should have taught me. Delphine reached up with a trembling hand and touched Marin's face. A mother's touch, decades too late. I'm sorry, she whispered, for everything. I'm so sorry. Marin didn't say it was okay. It wasn't okay. It might never be okay. But she didn't pull away. The assembly had gone silent. 800 witnesses to a moment of impossible grace. Silas looked like he'd swallowed poison himself. The trial, Mayo, is over. Wren's voice was firm. Marin Coltrane has demonstrated mastery beyond question. She neutralized a poison its own creator deemed incurable. She chose healing over vengeance. She embodies everything the title Master Herbalist represents. I move to grant the title, Alpha Brennan said. Seconded, Alpha Kate added. All in favor. The vote was nearly unanimous. 97% of the assembly. Marin Coltrane, half-blood herbalist mother of a 3-week-old daughter, was now Master Herbalist of the Northern Territories. She helped Delphine to her feet. The older woman was weak, still recovering. What happens now? Delphine asked quietly. Now, Marin said, you help me rebuild what you helped destroy. You teach the next generation. You use your knowledge for healing, and you earn back slowly the right to call yourself my mother. And if I fail, then you fail. But at least you'll fail trying to be better. That's more than you've done in 20 years. Delphine nodded, tears tracked down her face. Thank you for giving me a chance I don't deserve. That's what healers do, Marin said softly. We give people chances to survive. The coronation ceremony was held the following day. The assembly hall transformed overnight. Flowers covered every surface. Not hothouse roses, but wild herbs. Lavender and rosemary, chamomile and mint. The scent was overwhelming. Beautiful. Marin stood in a private room adjusting her gown. Simple green silk embroidered with leaves and gold thread. The pendant Cassian had given her rested at her throat. Iris appeared in the doorway, Soleil in her arms. Someone wants her mama, the older woman said. Marin took her daughter. Soleil was nearly 4 weeks old now, alert and curious. She grabbed at Marin's pendant, tiny fingers surprisingly strong. Today we become a queen, Marin told her. What do you think about that? Soleil made a noise that might have been approval. A knock. Wren entered carrying a crown. Not the heavy jeweled monstrosity Marin expected. Instead, it was woven from silver wire shaped like vines with tiny crystal flowers scattered throughout. Your father made this, Wren said quietly, for my sister. She died before she could wear it, but I think he'd want you to have it. Marin touched it with trembling fingers. It's beautiful. He was an artist, in plants and in metalwork. Wren's eyes were distant. He believed beauty and function weren't opposites, that the best medicines healed body and spirit. The ceremony was brief. Cassian stood before the assembly regal in his formal attire. When Marin walked in, Soleil in her arms, his expression transformed. Love. Pure, overwhelming love. The officiant spoke the traditional words. Cassian responded. And then it was Marin's turn. Do you, Marin Coltrane, accept the responsibility of standing beside the Alpha King? Do you vow to serve these territories with wisdom and compassion? She looked out at the assembly, at Alpha Brennan and Alpha Cade, who had stood by her, at Tobias recovered and strong, at Delphine sitting with Wren watching with cautious hope, at Iris, who had saved her when she had nothing, at her daughter who would grow up in a world Marin was building with every choice. I do. The crown settled on her head lighter than she expected. And then Cassian did something unexpected. He knelt. The Alpha King of the Northern Territories knelt before his queen. I have one more question, he said, pulling a ring from his pocket. Simple silver band with a green stone. Marin Coltrane, Master Herbalist, Queen of my heart. Will you marry me? You asked me to wait, she said softly, to ask after the trial. I waited. Now I'm asking. Marin thought about the journey. 8 months pregnant and alone, fire and poison, labor and fear, her mother's betrayal and tentative redemption, every moment of pain that led here. Yes, she said, I'll marry you. He slid the ring on her finger, stood, kissed her while the assembly erupted in cheers. Soleil caught between them made an indignant noise. They broke apart laughing. Our daughter has opinions, Cassian said. She gets that from me. The wedding followed immediately. They spoke vows under a canopy woven from living vines. Iris officiated, her voice strong and sure. Marriage is choosing every day to be each other's home, she said. To weather storms together. To celebrate sunshine together. To build something bigger than yourselves. Cassian's vows were simple. I promise to never make decisions for you out of fear. To trust you. To stand beside you, not in front of you. To be the father our daughter deserves and the partner you never had. Marin's vows came from deeper. I promise to choose forgiveness when I can and honesty when I can't. To heal what's broken between us. To build a family based on truth, not perfection. And to remind you every day that you are worthy of the second chance I'm giving you. Not because you've earned it, she added, but because love is a choice and I choose you. They sealed it with a kiss. Soleil passed to Ren for the ceremony, chose that moment to cry. Loud, insistent, everyone laughed. She wants her parents, Ren said, handing her over. Marin took her daughter. Cassian wrapped his arms around both of them. And there in front of 800 witnesses they stood, not as king and consort, but as partners, as parents, as people who had chosen each other despite everything. The celebration lasted into the night, but Marin slipped away early, finding Delphine in the gardens tending to a bed of medicinal herbs. Her mother looked up startled. I thought you'd be celebrating. I thought you might want to meet your granddaughter. Properly. Delphine's hands stilled. I don't have the right. You don't, but Soleil deserves to know her family. All of it, even the complicated parts. Marin sat beside her mother on the garden bench, adjusted Soleil so Delphine could see her face. The baby's gold eyes studied this new person with interest. She looks like you, Delphine whispered. Like you did when you were born. You remember. I remember everything. Delphine's voice cracked. Holding you for the first time, your tiny fingers, the way you looked at me like I was your entire world. And I gave you away because I was afraid. Because I wanted power more than I wanted you. She touched Soleil's hand with one finger. The baby grabbed it. I won't make the same mistake twice, Delphine said. If you let me be part of her life, I will spend every day proving I've changed. I'm not letting you be part of her life for you, Marin said quietly. I'm doing it for her. Every child deserves to know where they come from, and Soleil deserves to see that people can change, that redemption is possible. Thank you, Delphine whispered. They sat in silence as the celebration continued inside. 3 generations of women in a garden full of healing plants. 1 year later, Marin stood in the same garden, Soleil toddling between the herb beds. The baby, now 13 months old, moved with determined purpose. She touched each plant as she passed, and flowers seemed to lean toward her fingers. She's going to be powerful, Iris observed. She was visiting for the week, staying in rooms Cassian had prepared specifically for her. Look, the lavender bloomed out of season when she touched it. The herbalist's gift, Ren agreed. She spent half her time at the palace now training young healers. Stronger than I've ever seen. Delphine worked in the far corner of the garden preparing a lesson for her students. She'd become a teacher, not a poisoner. It was a slow transformation, but real. She looked up, caught Marin watching, smiled tentatively. Marin smiled back. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the beginning of it. Cassian emerged from the palace carrying a basket. Picnic supplies. I thought we could eat in the garden. They spread a blanket on the grass. Soleil immediately crawled over, interested in the food. Hungry, little one. Cassian lifted her into his lap. You're always hungry. The baby reached for a piece of bread, gold eyes bright with joy. Marin watched them, her daughter, her husband, her mother working to become someone better, her chosen family scattered across the garden. What are you thinking? Cassian asked. That I'm happy. Good. And scared. Happiness feels fragile. It is fragile. He pulled her close. That's what makes it worth the protecting. Soleil finished her bread and squirmed out of Cassian's lap. She toddled to a rose bush, touched it, and the buds bloomed. Did you see that? Iris breathed. I did. Marin stood following her daughter. Soleil, love, we don't force plants to bloom. We ask nicely. The baby looked at her with those wise gold eyes. Touched the rose again, gentler this time. The blooms settled as if content. She understands, Ren said quietly. She already understands the balance. That night, after Soleil was asleep, Marin stood at her desk in the study. Her father's journal lay open beside her own. She picked up her pen. Dear Soleil, you're 1 year old today. You took your first steps last week. Spoke your first word 2 days ago. Mama, my heart is still full. You're growing up in a world your grandfather died trying to create. A world where herbalists are honored, where healing is a right, where half-bloods aren't treated as lesser. It's not perfect. There are still people who resist change, who cling to the old ways. But every day we make it better. Every person we heal, every student we teach, every act of kindness over cruelty. Your grandmother is teaching again. She's learning to be the mother I needed. It's hard. Some days I want to shut her out, but then I remember that you're watching, learning, and I want you to see that redemption is real, that people can change. Your father loves you so much it scares him. He's terrified he'll fail you the way he failed me. But he won't, because he's learned the most important lesson. Love is a choice you make every day, and I choose this life, this family, this work. Every day I choose healing over hatred. I hope you will too. She set down the pen. Through the window, she could see the garden spreading out under moonlight. Herbs she'd planted, students she'd trained working the beds. A community built on knowledge shared freely. Legacy wasn't just what you left behind. It was what you built while you were here. And Marin was building something beautiful. Something that would outlast her. Outlast the council. Outlast every person who had tried to destroy her father's work. She was building a world where her daughter could grow up safe, powerful, free. A world where herbalists healed instead of harmed. Where mothers didn't have to choose between love and survival. Where rejected mates were protected, not persecuted. A world grown from the same principle that had guided her father. That guided her now. That healing was stronger than poison. That knowledge shared was power multiplied. That love, real love, was the most potent medicine she possessed. Marin closed the journal, kissed Soleil's sleeping forehead, joined Cashin in their bedroom where he was already half asleep. He pulled her close. Everything all right? Everything's perfect. Liar. But he smiled. What's really on your mind? Legacy, future, all the things our daughter will inherit. She'll inherit a kingdom. She'll inherit something better. Marin touched the pendant at her throat. She'll inherit the knowledge that broken things can be healed, that families can be rebuilt, that forgiveness is possible. That's a good inheritance. It's the only one that matters. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, safe in the nursery. Soleil dreamed of gardens that grew forever, of plants that healed every wound, of a future where she would walk in her mother's footsteps and her grandfather's legacy. A future built on roots that ran deep, on remedies that cured more than bodies, on the unshakable truth that love freely given was the strongest medicine in any healer's arsenal. And somewhere in the space between sleep and waking, the ghost of David Coltrane smiled. His daughter had finished what he started. His granddaughter would carry it forward. The work would continue. The healing would spread, and the world would be better for it. One person, one remedy, one act of grace at a time.